Texas versus Ohio State set for week 1, but Fox doesn't want us to have any fun. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, we are talking all things college football. By the way, we have crossed the offseason Rubicon. We are now closer to the college football season than we are to the college football playoff title game. So we are getting that much closer, and nobody better to join us to talk all things college football, including the Texas Longhorns. Our buddy Brad Kellner, host of Locked On Longhorns. Brad, welcome in, man. I saw you get all giddy there just hearing we're getting that much closer to the college football season.
Gordy, it feels like these off seasons get longer and longer every year. And I know the exact opposite is happening because we're dragging out the college football season longer than ever before. But man, I guess when the excitement and anticipation level surrounding the team you root for is as high as it is right now with Texas, that makes you more pumped to get the season back. But I love hearing that we are at least past the midway point of the off season. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, any more rounds of the college football playoff, we'll probably go like back-to-back playoff championship and March Madness. We'll just put them like back-to-back because that's how far we're going to get if they keep expanding this thing. But I did want to get you on to talk about Fox officially announcing Monday that they're going to carry the highly anticipated week 1 showdown between Texas and Ohio State. And what does that mean? Well, it means a Big Noon Kickoff. And look, it's disappointing from a standpoint of this is one of the biggest games of the first weekend, but Fox with their stupid Big Noon Kickoff that nobody asked for. Nobody wants games that early, but this might actually be a good thing for Texas, right?
It could be. I mean, I think Texas fans are disappointed because Texas fans are college football fans. And look, I believe the best game should be played in prime time. And I know there are some other enticing matchups in week 1. Obviously, Clemson LSU is going to be great. You know, we'll see what Florida State looks like, but Bama Florida State has a chance to be a great one too. But this is by far the best game of the opening weekend of the college football season. It deserves that Saturday night primetime spot under the lights. And I hate that it's not going to get it. So, yeah, like hypothetically, you want to play your tough road games earlier in the day because that should make the fan base of the opposing team a little bit more sober, which would make the crowd a little bit less raucous. But, I think that fan base is going to be nuts. I mean, Ohio State's raising a banner, and they're going to be pumped up for that one. So I don't know how much it is going to matter, but I'm just more disappointed as a college football fan who likes the anticipation and the buildup of the best games being in prime time. The fact that you got to wake up early to start getting ready for that one just feels wrong for the sport.
It is a little bit poetic, though, that the last time we saw the Longhorns play a college football game was against Ohio State, and now they get a second crack at them. Now, these two teams will look very different, right? There's no Will Howard. There's no Quinn Ewers. There's a lot of different pieces that are going to be on the field that day, but kind of cool that, it's a little bit of a chance at redemption, albeit this is just a regular season game and that was a playoff game, but pretty unique in that aspect, right?
Yeah, I'd be happy to trade, right? If Texas goes in there and beats Ohio State, I'll be asking people around the horseshoe, hey, would you like to trade results, please? Can we get that? That would be fantastic. But, look, the playoff games obviously matter more. I think every Texas fan feels like if the Longhorns were able to get by Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, that they would have beaten Notre Dame and won the national championship last year. So it stings a little bit. And Longhorn fans, during the broadcast are going to get reminded, 100 times about that game in early January. And we're going to have to watch the Jack Sawyer strip sack fumble about 1,000 times in the week leading up to that game. So it's going to reopen up some wounds for Texas fans, but it will help the sting a little bit if the Longhorns are able to go on the road and get a huge win. And look, in the 12-team college football playoff era, you never want to assume anything, right? Obviously, Texas can lose that game and still find their way into the CFP for the 3rd straight season. But you go on the road and beat a team as good as Ohio State, feels like the Longhorns will be in the driver's seat to earn one of those 12 teams or 12 bids in the college football playoff. So still plenty on the line in this one.
By the way, the other big storyline that'll be happening that week, really off the field, is College Game Day is expected to be there. And it will be Lee Corso's final appearance on College Game Day. So I think he's picked, put on the Brutus Buckeye head, more than any other mascot ever. So he's probably going to go that route. But man, that would be really funny on the way out. He puts on the Longhorn head and walks out off into the sunset, right?
There's a chance, right? Like every college football fan knows the moment that Lee Corso picked their team to win a big game. And Lee Corso kind of went on a limb, the 05 national championship game, right? USC had won 2 in a row. They were the big favorites. The game was at the Rose Bowl. Like Kirk and everybody else on set picked SC to win. And Lee Corso put on the Bevo head. And, it's 20 years ago. No Vince Young on this Texas team, but I don't think you should be shocked. Like if Lee Corso wants to go big and bold with his last ever headgear pick, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if he ends up going with Texas on his last ever show.
So you mentioned there will be no Vince Young, but there will be Arch Manning, and this will be the first official game. I mean, talk about what a rough start for place to start your first game as the full-time quarterback. Now I know he started a couple games last year, but like to get the Arch Manning era underway, to have to go up to the Horseshoe and start at Ohio State, no bigger place to do it. But what's the pulse of the fan base right now when it comes to Arch? Seems like Longhorn fans are pretty darn excited.
Hey, you should keep that picture up, Gordy. We're a couple of radio guys. Nobody wants to look at us. There we go. To say they're excited is the understatement of all understatements, right? I mean, Texas fans, look, Quinn Ewers is the best quarterback the Longhorns had since Colt McCoy, right? And obviously got Texas to a place that they hadn't been in a long time. But, the most popular person on campus is always the backup quarterback. That multiplies by infinity when the backup quarterback's name is Manning. So, you've seen it. You don't have to be a Texas fan. Like every time Arch Manning entered a game the last 2 seasons, it was the loudest cheer of said game. So this fan base, yeah, everyone gets excited when college football returns, but I don't know if I've ever seen a Texas fan base this pumped up about an era of Longhorn football. We'll see if Arch can live up to the hype. Obviously, there's a ton of it. It's been that way really since he came out the womb. But of course, one of the top recruits in the country coming out of high school, and just everybody across the college football world has been anticipating this moment for a long time. So yeah, what a place to open up the year, right? On the road in the Horseshoe against the defending champs. Game day is going to be there. Big Noon Kickoff is going to be there. You talk about easing into things. Yeah, that's the exact opposite of what's going to happen for number 16 in week 1.
Hey, more with Brad Kellner in just a second. But first, the NBA playoffs, they are in full swing, and every night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time for you to get in on the action. And if you've never used FanDuel before, man, they've got some great stuff going on for you. They make it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live action with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Right now, get in on what FanDuel has got going, man. You can check them for current playoff odds, player prop bets to include in whatever you want to bet. How could a $200 bonus in bets add to your excitement if your first $5 bet hits? If you're new to FanDuel, perfect time to sign up. You just head to FanDuel.com, place your $5 bet, and if it wins, you will get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. Look, it's not just the NBA playoffs. It's college football. They got future lines. They got week 1 lines already for some of those big SEC games. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're talking with Brad Kellner, host of Locked On Longhorns. And Brad, it's funny. We've been talking a lot about, post-spring rankings and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to wait till the summer to kind of put out my predicted order finish and where I put teams and all this. But I'm going back and forth on Texas and Georgia. Right now, I'm leaning a little bit more towards Georgia just because Kirby's gotten the benefit of the doubt on reloading. I need to see how Sark does this, right? Year 1 in the SEC was tremendous success. And honestly, last year in the Big 12 was a tremendous success. But he's lost a lot of guys from these last 2 years of teams. And I have to see, he's recruited tremendously. They've hit the portal well as well. But I need to see it first before I believe it. Is that fair in that I say Texas lost a ton from last year's team?
Yeah, I think more than anything, you've got to see Texas beat Georgia, right? Like, I think there's a chance that if Texas and Georgia split their 2 games last year, maybe you and a lot of other people would be changing their minds on this Texas team. But, Georgia's kind of ran this conference for the last few years. They've won the conference titles, they've won the national titles, and Texas hasn't. So giving them the benefit of the doubt, I think makes a lot of sense. I will say this, like, look, it's a fair question to ask. I had a ton of questions about Texas going into last year, right? Because Texas had 11 players drafted in the 2024 draft. They were obviously going up from the Big 12 to the SEC. And the last time Texas had a really good year, funny enough, they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Sam Ehlinger declares Texas is back, and it felt like Tom Herman had the program on the rise. Well, the next year, Texas completely laid an egg. That wasn't the case from 2023 to 2024. Like, my UTSD was clicking. I was worried that Texas was going to take a big step back last year, but even though they lost double-digit guys to the league, they proved that they could get exactly where they were. Hell, they won 2 playoff games to get back to the college football playoff semifinal last year. So I feel good about Texas's chances. I really do. They passed that test. Steve Sarkisian showed he could lose double-digit guys to the league and still put together a really good season. So is Texas going to finish first in the SEC? I don't know. But I think you're making a mistake if you think the Longhorns are going to take some big step back and end up going 8-4 and 9-3 this year. They still have a favorable conference schedule. They've got to go to Columbus and to Athens, maybe the 2 toughest road games you could play in the sport right now. But I still think this team is going to find a way to win at least 10 games in the regular season and be in the mix to at least get to Atlanta when we get to December.
What's funny, Brad, is all the headlines that Arch grabs. I look at this team and I say, what are their strengths? Well, we just did the Pro Football Focus, All-American team, preseason All-American team yesterday, and there's 2 big guys on that defense that are glaring, in Anthony Hill and Simmons, of course, defensive end. So, like, those 2 guys are back, and they're awesome. And then I look at the backfield, and I go, man, that running game of Trey Wisner, who emerged last year as a stud in the SEC, you get CJ Baxter back healthy. Like, I start to look at it, Brad, I go, Arch gets all the hype, but it's that dominant run game and that defense that could be the storyline of this team.
Yeah, it's a great point, Gordy. And look, the defense is losing some talented pieces, right? Jahdae Barron, first-round pick to the Broncos. Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, the 2 defensive tackles, were top 3-round picks in the draft. Barron Sorrell got picked in the 4th round by Green Bay. Those guys won't be easy to replace, but the defense has 8 starters back. The offense only has 3. So you feel like the defense might have to carry the load, especially early on. The good news for Texas is Arch Manning's going into year 3. Obviously hasn't started a lot, only started 2 games, hasn't played in a lot of big moments during his Texas career, but he's seen it. He knows the offense. He knows his teammates. So that should make the transition into being QB1 a little bit easier than it would for a true freshman or even a redshirt freshman. But in case there are those bumps and bruises and growing pains with a first-year starter, with 4 new offensive linemen and a couple of new receivers, that defense should be able to carry the load early. Because you talked about those 2 guys. What about Michael Taft? He was an All-American last year. Now, Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill are first-round picks in the future. Michael Taft is not that guy, but he's one of the smartest players in the game. And to be first-team All-SEC and to be an All-American as a white safety, not easy to do these days, Gordy. So don't sleep on Taft. And then you're right. A quarterback's best friend is a good run game. Trey Wisner, the only returning 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC. CJ Baxter was the number 1 tailback recruit in the country in the class of 2023, coming off a serious knee injury. So we don't know exactly what he's going to look like. But before he went down, he was looking really good. And you've got Jarrett Gibson there as well. Texas has a lot of things going for them to where, if it does take Arch Manning a little bit of time to figure things out, then they should still be competitive and they should still be having some success in the first month and 2 of the year.
Yeah, Jason Sehorn gives his stamp of approval for Michael Taft. Last thing for you, I wanted to touch on, we've talked about, you lose all those wide receivers, right? You lose Matthew Golden, you lose all these guys to the draft and graduation or whatever. But Sark, when I got to chat with him a couple of weeks ago, we brought up the talking point of there's always that idea of when you bring in that backup quarterback and he's playing on the second unit, there are other talented freshmen coming in with that guy and they start to develop together. And I bring up Brian Wingo because Wingo and Arch, man, every day at practice, they were connecting. He was throwing it to him and all this. And now they both move up, almost like from JV to varsity together. And they've got that chemistry going already. So it was just an interesting, part of, how's Arch going to develop chemistry with all these guys? And Sark was kind of like, whoa, he's already got chemistry with these guys. They were backups last year. Now they're going to be starters.
Yeah, it's a great point, Gordy. It really is. And a lot of these guys were twos. They were working together with the number 2 offense, last spring, last fall through the season. And now they're working together with the 1. So Texas did lose 3 big-time receivers. Matthew Golden gone, Isaiah Bond gone, Silas Bolden gone. Those guys all made an impact during their times at Texas. But Ryan Wingo, the former 5-star, and then DeAndre Moore. DeAndre Moore ended up turning into a starter for Texas. But you look at the only SEC game that Arch started last year, the Horns conference opener against Mississippi State. DeAndre Moore, 4 catches, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that game. So there's clearly some chemistry there. There's chemistry with Ryan Wingo. And then you look at some of the younger guys that are kind of ready to rise into stardom for Texas. Yeah, those guys have already gotten a chance to work with Arch before. So again, that goes back to, hey, it's a great thing that even though it's a first-year starter at QB, you've got a guy going into year 3. He knows the offense. He knows his teammates. He knows what's expected of him. And that should make this transition a little bit easier for Arch when the time comes on August 30th.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I mean, man, we've got some dandies in that week 1 of opening week of college football, especially in the SEC. But getting to see Texas versus Ohio State, guess we're gonna have to wake up early, and it'll be the big noon kickoff game. But nonetheless, it's advantage Texas if that is the case. Brad, let everybody know what you got going on over there at Locked On Longhorns.
Appreciate that. Check us out, Locked On Longhorns. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, of course, on YouTube as well, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Horns.
Great stuff, Brad. When we return, we will go around the SEC, get you caught up on the latest news happening around the transfer portal. That's coming your way next. Hey, guys, you ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, entertainment? It's easy to lose track of your spending, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. They are your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money, they're not just a budgeting app. It can be a complete financial command center for you. It can track all your accounts, all your investments, all your spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building your wealth. And look, you're going to be surprised when Monarch Money starts tracking where all your money's going. You're going to go, wait, I'm paying that for that streaming service? Oh yeah, I forgot we did that food delivery service, and that added up quickly. It's tremendous. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Figure out what you want to do with your money down the road. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. And best of all, you can use our code LOCKEDONCollege. That's at monarchmoney.com. Get 50% off your first year. Monarch Money, MONARCH, money.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get half off your first year at Monarch Money. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Our thanks to Brad Kellner for joining us last segment. We do have some other news and notes that we got to jump into, so let's dive into it going around the league. And let's start over at LSU, as Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers are going to reportedly play an ACC foe on their non-conference schedule in the future. LSU will play SMU, the school's announced on Monday. It will begin in 2028. LSU will host a September game at Tiger Stadium, so it would be week 1, and then the Tigers would follow with a road trip to Dallas to face SMU first week of September 2029. Now, there was a report, Jacques Doucet of WAFB in Baton Rouge reported that a 2029 game could either be at Gerald Ford Stadium at SMU, or they could move it to AT&T Stadium in Dallas, home of the Dallas Cowboys. So, again, the press release from LSU listed Tiger Stadium as the venue for 2028, but it did not list a specific stadium at SMU for 2029. So, could be an interesting matchup when you consider, if this game was scheduled, 2 years ago, wouldn't be a big deal for LSU. But SMU is kind of killing it on the recruiting front and kind of killing it in the portal. And they're adding a lot of pieces, and they're getting more and more money, financial backers, where it's kind of an ode throwback to an ode to the old SMU days, right? The Pony Express getting fired up there. So that might be a game LSU comes to regret down the road. I mean, SMU was, a contender in the ACC here in year one, nearly beat Clemson. So that could be a dangerous team 3 years from now. Now, there is another connection that just happened over the weekend between LSU and SMU. LSU had a 4-star wide receiver commitment for the class of 2026 flip to SMU. Wide receiver Ja'Kai Anderson had been committed to LSU. He's 6 foot tall, 160 pounds, number 10 player from the state of Louisiana, number 39 wide receiver overall. He had been verbally committed to play for LSU since June of last year. And almost a year later, he flips to SMU. And let me tell you, I don't think he was just sold on the SMU football program. He's getting paid. And, that's the day and age we live in. And SMU, they ain't messing around. So will be interesting to see. One more LSU nugget here as we get into a couple of transfer portal and recruiting tidbits. John Emery, former LSU running back. He is, we know he got granted one more year of eligibility from the NCAA. And Brian Kelly basically said, well, we're kind of loaded at running back. We're good. So he's going to play a 7th season of college football this fall, had entered the transfer portal, and on Monday officially announced he is signed with UTSA. So John Emery, originally part of that 2019 signing class with LSU. Guy played with Joe Burrow at LSU. He will play 7th year of college football, and he will do it with the Roadrunners of UTSA. So best of luck to John Emery over there. Meanwhile, over at Texas A&M, one of their 4-star recruits, Ernest Campbell, wide receiver, is transferring out already. He's heading to play for Sacramento State, program with 4 trips to the FCS playoffs since 2019. He was originally a 4-star in-state recruit in the class of 2024 for Texas A&M, appeared in just 1 game on special teams during his true freshman year. So we'll still have 4 full years of eligibility. He was a dual sport athlete, good track runner, appeared in 4 indoor track meets during his time with the Aggies, and a little bit of a depth hit at the wide receiver position for Mike Elko. The Aggies did add several wide receivers in the transfer portal, however, but Campbell will get the team up with quarterback Jaden Rashada, who left Georgia for Sacramento State. Pretty interesting what Sacramento State has going on over there so far in the transfer portal and guys that they have added. But you got wide receiver Ernest Campbell coming from A&M. You got Jaden Rashada, quarterback, coming over from Georgia. Who else? I was trying to look it up. They had a couple other big names of guys who are heading to Sacramento State. So keep an eye on Sacramento State. Might be a team on the rise, perhaps. Oh, yeah, Jai Hall, leaving UCF. So, yeah, keep an eye on those Sacramento State footballers. All right, over in recruiting news, over at Texas, they picked up a 2026 commitment from New Orleans by the name of Hayward Howard Jr., 4-star corner out of New Orleans area, 6'2", 175 pounds, number 11 player from the state of Louisiana, the number 33 corner, had offers from Auburn, Florida, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and came down to Texas, Miami, LSU, and Florida State. And he ends up picking the Texas Longhorns. So with Howard on board, Texas now has 6 players verbally committed for the class of 2026. So the Longhorns can expect a dog who consistently gives 100%. Over at Ole Miss, they went into enemy territory to pick up their latest commit. How about 4-star wide receiver Corey Barber out of the state of Alabama? Plays at Birmingham Spain Park High School. He's listed at 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. The number 13 player from the state of Alabama, the number 46 wide receiver. Had offers from Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas A&M. And he said that it came down to Ole Miss, Miami, Bama, and Georgia. And with Barber on board for Ole Miss, they now have 8 commitments for the class of 2026. Ranks 33 nationally, so still some room for improvement there. Over at Georgia, Kirby Smart doing a little work, one of the top prospects in the state of Georgia, staying home to play college football in the SEC. And that is 4-star defensive back Jordan Smith out of Warren Robins, Houston County High School there in Georgia, listed at 6'1", 185 pounds. 4-star, the number 8 safety, the number 10 player in the state of Georgia, and he is staying home, committing to the Georgia Bulldogs. So Georgia now with 9 players verbally committed for the class of 2026, ranks top 10 nationally. A couple other stories here. How about over at Texas A&M? We gave you last week, Greg McElroy was put out a list of his top 10 running backs for 2026 or 2025 rather, and there were some SEC names on there. Obviously Trey Wisner over at Texas, but he did not list Le'Veon Moss from Texas A&M. We talked about it. I mean, he was a stud running back last year in the conference. McElroy clarified. He said, there's really only the injury that Le'Veon Moss sustained late last year against South Carolina. He said Le'Veon Moss would have, without a doubt, he would have 100% been in my top 10. He was well on his way to rushing for over 1,000 yards. He had already at that point accumulated almost 800 yards and 10 touchdowns, averaging 6.5 yards a carry in the SEC. But he said, basically he would have had him on the list if health were a factor. But he said, obviously getting Reuben Owens back, this will give Le'Veon Moss plenty of opportunities to, get back into the fold. He was limited in the spring, but he said, sounds like the prognosis is good. He's been openly tweeting, hey, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be at 100%. Don't worry about me. And he said, I believe by season's end, Le'Veon Moss, if he looks anything like he did last year, A&M's rushing attack has a chance to be in very great shape. One other note on Texas A&M. There was a story in Sportico that came out yesterday. A guy named Daniel Libet posted a story that said donations for the Texas A&M 12th Man Foundation have drastically fallen in the past year. It said after bringing in over $120 million during the 2023 fiscal year, that number dropped to just under $96 million in 2024. He obtained a copy of the 12th Man Foundation's latest tax return, and that comes just as the buyout for Jimbo Fisher has gone into effect. Fisher, of course, was fired during the 23 season, had a historic $76 million fee. And it says the 12th Man Foundation, Texas A&M's athletic fundraising arm, saw its annual revenue drop by more than $25 million from 23 to 24, just as it started taking on the hefty financial burden of helping cover Jimbo Fisher's massive buyout. According to the organization's latest tax return, it brought in $121 million in total revenue in 23 and then $95.7 million in 24. So having to pay that bill, we talk about it all the time, paying those massive buyouts, it adds up, man. It's tough, but that's the price of playing poker. And one last thing here on the SEC baseball front, Baseball America putting out their latest poll this week after all the shifting and changes from last weekend. They put LSU at number 1 after taking 2 out of 3 against Arkansas. They had Auburn at number 2, Georgia at number 4, Texas at number 6, Arkansas at number 7, Vanderbilt at number 10. And outside of that, they had Florida ranked 13th, Alabama 16th, Tennessee 18, and Ole Miss at 22. But how about that? Who had LSU and Auburn being ranked number 1 and number 2 at any point this season? Well, we're getting closer to the end of the baseball season, final regular season, a week of the regular season happening this weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Our thanks again to Brad Kellner for joining us. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your second listen, you can check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Come on back and see us.